Hey there. Welcome to the Wisdom of Grief podcast, where we explore the journey of loss and rediscovering joy. I'm your host, Leslie Palumbo. Today, we're exploring something crucial to your healing journey, the three distinct grieving styles that I've identified in my work. Understanding these styles is really going to help you create your own personalized grief blueprint. Because while grief is universal, our path to healing and wellness is as uniquely individual as we are. And the remedy that works for one person might be the most awful thing for another. For example, after the loss of my husband, I loved when someone asked me how I was doing. I felt cared for, and especially that they took the time to ask something that might be out of their comfort zone. And it made me feel cared for. In fact, I felt uncomfortable if no one brought it up, like it was kind of being glossed over. However, I have a good friend who feels greatly intruded upon if someone asks her how she's doing with her loss. For her, it's this private matter, and she only wants to share it when she's in the right frame of mind and initiates it. Similarly, I had a client who had to put his photos of his wife away for a time as they were too painful of a trigger, while another one uses her photos as a way to release built up emotion during grief. Bottom line is, as we heal from loss, we need to find our own grief medicine. And our personal makeup can greatly affect what we find most helpful and restorative, which brings me to the three types of grievers. And interestingly, as I was going through these, I realized that these styles actually correspond with the three doshas in Ayurvedic medicine. There's Vata, Kapha, and Pitta. These are certain personality and physical types. And while we all possess elements of each style, and we all possess elements of each grieving style, most of us have a dominant approach that can guide our healing journey. So notice if you see yourself in any of these. The first style is the reflective griever. A reflective griever is like a vata, very airy, creative, and dreamy, philosophical minded, and growth oriented. And they are drawn to their inner life. So if you are a reflective healer, you process grief through deep insight and intuition, and you're kind of seeking meaning and spiritual and personal growth. So you don't just endure loss, you examine it, looking for the wisdom that it offers. And you are kind of naturally curious and open. And this ability to self-reflect is a powerful tool in your healing. It's going to help you gain clarity and a deeper sense of connection to yourself. However, reflective healers are highly sensitive often, and this deep emotional engagement with other people and in general can sometimes feel overwhelming. So you can suffer from a kind of burnout, and managing amped up emotion and soothing your nervous system is going to be key to your grief blueprint. So, some healing tips for reflective grievers. Journaling provides a safe space to process emotions, to gain insights, and also to track your growth, which sometimes can feel kind of glacial when you're grieving until you look back. Also, the regular practice of journal is going to give you structure to your wandering thoughts, and that's going to help you feel grounded. And don't forget to save it all because you're likely very creative and your writing will become a treasure to refer to back down the line. Also, because sometimes we forget what happens in early grief, and there are some insights that we might not remember if we didn't write them down. So two, allow introspective time and time for restoration after more public activities. Because you can be depleted by too much noise, crowds, and you're going to need to calm the nervous system. And one way of doing this is when you do closed mouth breathing and you make your exhale longer than your inhale. This produces more saliva in the mouth, and then the saliva signals to the heart to slow down. So it's actually physiological. Um, and for you, finally, finding the balance between being protective with your energy and not isolating. So you don't want to isolate, but you do want to be protective. So you need to find kind of safe, supportive community. And while you may be beautifully self-sufficient, which you are, remember, no one heals in isolation, and you need to allow yourself to lean on others when needed. The second grieving style is the action-oriented griever. An action-oriented healer is like a pitta with a fiery and brave temperament, and you need action to work through strong emotion. So my sister and I, when we were young, we were both Vadas with that kind of high nervous system. And we always characterized the Pittas as the ones who would just jump out on the sports field and they'd be like, let's just play. Come on, let's go for it. Because they're total gamers, and they're really brave. And they're brave about taking action. So while as Vadas, we just wanted to talk about playing and getting on the field and analyze it for a while first. So I've worked in my life to cultivate these qualities of Pitta, which are really just courage and inaction. So if you are an action-oriented healer, movement is your medicine and productivity is your anchor. And so you don't like to passively endure difficulty, you like to actively move through it. So when grief feels overwhelming, channeling your energy into activity that helps you process emotions is going to feel natural and grounding to you. And structure, routine, and goal-oriented projects are going to help keep you steady. So, but being mindful to balance your actions with emotional connection. Otherwise, you can risk exhaustion, which is already ever present in early grief. So some healing tips for action-oriented grievers are you want to stay physically active, but don't forget the pause because you want to have exercise be an outlet rather than an escape. And the pause is key here to match the natural pace of grief. So it's not about trying to outrun it. And purpose-driven activities like challenges or charity events honoring your loved one are going to help you feel strong both inside and out. And then this is key here, setting up a routine for time-limited emotional processing. So you want to set aside short, manageable blocks to acknowledge your grief, like 10, 15 minutes tops. You want to keep it time limited. It's going to make it feel manageable. And then sit with whatever emotions arise, like breathe through them, and then just kind of like release them, like a swan ruffling its feathers after a storm. So the third style is the relational griever. And a relational healer is like a kapha in Ayurvedic medicine. It's the earth mother, like the warm nurturer, taking care of other people all the time, and sometimes at the expense of oneself. But if you are a relational healer, then nurturing and connection is at the heart of your grief journey. And for you, healing happens through shared experiences, through connection, deep relationships, bonds, surrounded by supportive friends and family, and in community. Feeling connected to community and the larger world is going to help keep you grounded, and it reminds you that you're not alone. However, as an innate nurturer, you may find yourself naturally tending to others' grief before your own. So remember to take some time to nurture yourself the way you would a dear loved one. And some healing tips for relational grievers are you want to do shared activities, and taking part in a cause may be related to your loved one that you can channel your grief into. And here's the key also. Blocking out time for self-compassion practice for you. And blocking is important because you almost need to have no one else in the room in order to be able to tend to your own needs. If someone else is around, you're going to naturally want to instinctively take care of them. So this block time can be used for like journaling, quiet time, and it's going to be balancing for you. And an exercise like Thich Nhat Hanh has an exercise that he calls cradling the baby. And so that's basically cradling in grief. You do it like this. You'd cradle your grieving self with the same love and tenderness that a mother would use as she cradles her infant in her loving arms. So it's with deep, deep pause for tenderness towards yourself is going to be really balancing for relational grievers. So I've created a quiz to help you find your grieving style, and there is a specific blueprint for each grieving type at the end of the quiz with suggestions for how to move through grief according to your personal style. So you can find it in the show notes if you want to take the quiz, and I hope it's helpful to you. And please share this episode or quiz with a friend who it might help, because we're all in this together. And our quote to end our podcast today is from the writer Annie Lamott. And she writes, "You will lose someone you can't live without, and your heart will be badly broken. And the bad news is that you will never completely get over the loss of your beloved. But this is also the good news. They live forever in your broken heart that doesn't seal back up, and you come through. It's like having a broken leg that never heals perfectly, that still hurts when the weather gets cold, but you learn to dance with the limp." So that's it for today. See how that quote lands for you. And I thank you so much for the opportunity to serve and talk with you. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Be good to yourself, be good to each other. And as always, I wish you peace as you tread the waters of grief.